Have you ever checked your blood sugar after what seemed like a healthy meal and felt shocked by the number staring back at you? Maybe it was 178, maybe 196, maybe even higher. And the frustrating part is you were honestly trying to do the right thing. For many adults over 60, blood sugar starts feeling unpredictable. Foods that once seemed harmless suddenly create exhaustion. Breakfast leaves you sleepy. Dinner creates brain fog. And some healthy foods spike glucose faster than people realize. But what surprises many adults is this. Some of the most powerful foods for steadier blood sugar are not expensive supplements, not trendy powders, and not extreme diets. They're vegetables quietly sitting in the grocery store every single week. And one vegetable on today's list may affect blood sugar very differently than most diabetics expect. Another may actually help some adults feel fuller and steadier for hours afterward. But we also need to talk about the dangerous mistake many people make with healthy vegetable foods, because this is where many blood sugar problems quietly begin. And honestly, most people never see it coming. So stay with me until the end, because the final section may completely change the way you think about food after 60. And if you enjoy simple videos that make blood sugar easier to understand, subscribe and continue learning with us. Before we even talk about the vegetables themselves, we need to talk about what often happens to vegetables inside factories. Because sometimes the problem is not the vegetable. It's what gets added afterward. Veggie chips, low-fat frozen meals, sweetened canned vegetables, processed sauces, healthy vegetable snacks. Many of these foods look incredibly healthy on the front of the package. But 1 hour later, the glucose meter may tell a completely different story. And this is where many adults become confused. Because modern food marketing is designed to look healthy. Words like low-fat, sugar-free, diabetic-friendly, keto, heart-healthy can create a false sense of safety. But when manufacturers remove fat, they often replace it with starches, syrups, processed sweeteners, and fast-digesting fillers. And those ingredients may enter the bloodstream much faster than people expect. This is why two foods that both contain vegetables can affect the body very differently afterward. And one of the most misunderstood vegetables may actually surprise you: carrots. Many adults become afraid of carrots because carrots taste slightly sweet. But blood sugar response is often far more complicated than sweetness alone. And this surprises many people monitoring glucose at home, because whole carrots contain fiber, water, and structure that changes digestion speed dramatically compared to highly processed foods. This is why many adults notice a very different response between whole carrots and processed snacks marketed as healthy. What matters is often not just sugar itself, but how quickly food breaks apart during digestion. Think about it this way. Imagine dumping hundreds of cars onto a highway all at once. Traffic becomes overwhelming immediately. That's similar to what can happen when ultra-processed foods digest extremely fast. But whole foods with fiber often slow that process down. And that's why blood sugar may feel steadier for some people after eating whole vegetables compared to processed snack foods. Not perfect, not magical, just steadier. And honestly, that's what many adults managing blood sugar are truly searching for. Not perfection, just fewer extreme swings. But the next vegetable may actually be one of the most powerful stabilizers on this list. And many adults barely eat it anymore. Broccoli rarely feels exciting, and maybe that's exactly why so many people overlook it. But broccoli may quietly become one of the most useful vegetables for adults trying to avoid dangerous glucose swings after 60. One reason is simple. Broccoli tends to digest slowly and feel filling without creating the same rapid glucose rise many processed side dishes can create. And nighttime spikes matter more than many adults realize, because high evening glucose levels can leave people waking up thirsty, restless, exhausted, and mentally foggy the next morning. Many adults begin noticing this pattern only after they start monitoring blood sugar more closely, and this is where simple dinners can become surprisingly powerful. Roasted broccoli beside salmon, steamed broccoli with olive oil, chicken and vegetables instead of heavily processed frozen meals. Simple meals, steadier energy. less chaos afterward. And here's something important many people need to hear. Frozen broccoli is completely fine. Healthy eating does not need to look perfect on Instagram to support the body. Consistency matters more than perfection. And if one of these vegetables already helps you feel steadier after meals, let us know in the comments below. Because many adults watching this video are trying to figure this out together. But now we need to talk about one of the biggest healthy food traps in modern grocery stores: low-fat foods. Many adults were taught for decades that low-fat automatically meant healthy. But unfortunately, many low-fat products digest much faster than people realize. This is especially common in low-fat frozen meals, low-fat yogurts, processed diabetic snacks, and vegetable-based convenience foods. Because when fat disappears, manufacturers often compensate with starches, syrups, gums, sweeteners, and processed fillers. And this can completely change how food affects blood sugar afterward. This is why some adults feel confused when they eat a healthy frozen dinner, only to see glucose spike to 190 an hour later. The front of the package looked healthy, but the ingredient label told a very different story. And honestly, this is where many healthy diets quietly collapse. Not because people are lazy, not because they failed, but because modern food has become incredibly misleading. And the next vegetables may actually help create the opposite effect: slower digestion and steadier energy. Spinach, kale, arugula, romaine lettuce. These vegetables rarely get the attention of flashy health trends. But many adults eventually realize these foods quietly help meals feel more stable. One reason is not what these vegetables contain, but what they slow down. Adding leafy greens beside meals may help increase fiber, slow eating, increase fullness, and reduce how quickly some meals digest. And digestion speed matters enormously after 60, because rapid digestion often creates rapid glucose swings. This is why many adults feel steadier after meals that include vegetables, protein, healthy fats, and slower eating. Not restrictive eating, not starvation, just steadier rhythms. One simple example is sautéed spinach cooked in olive oil and garlic beside eggs or chicken. Simple, affordable, realistic, and importantly, you do not need perfect diets to support better habits. But now we need to talk about one vegetable that surprises almost everyone: cauliflower. Over the past few years, cauliflower became extremely trendy online. And honestly, some of the hype became ridiculous. But underneath the internet hype, there's still something useful happening here. Cauliflower often replaces heavily processed, starch-heavy side dishes with something that digests much more slowly. And many adults notice less heaviness, steadier energy, fewer crashes afterward. Cauliflower mash, roasted cauliflower, cauliflower bowls beside protein and olive oil. Simple changes, but simple changes repeated consistently often matter far more than extreme diets. And satisfaction matters too, because meals that feel satisfying are easier to maintain long term. That's why healthy fats, flavor, garlic, herbs, and protein all matter. Blood sugar-friendly eating should not feel like punishment. And if this video is helping simplify blood sugar in a way that finally makes sense, subscribe and continue learning with us. Because the final section may be the most important idea in this entire video. And now let's talk about a vegetable many adults avoided for years: Brussels sprouts. For a long time, Brussels sprouts had a reputation for being bitter and unpleasant. But something interesting happened. As more adults began paying closer attention to blood sugar and overall health, many rediscovered Brussels sprouts in a completely different way. Roasted, lightly seasoned, cooked with olive oil. Suddenly they became surprisingly enjoyable. And nutritionally, Brussels sprouts have several characteristics that make them appealing for adults trying to build steadier meals. They contain fiber, they contain water, and they tend to feel satisfying without creating the rapid digestion often seen with highly processed snack foods. One viewer once described Brussels sprouts as a slow and steady food. And honestly, that's a pretty good description. Not exciting, not dramatic, just steady. And after years of chasing quick fixes, many adults discover that steady often wins. But the next vegetable may be even more overlooked. And it happens to be one of the least expensive vegetables in most grocery stores. Cabbage rarely appears on lists of trendy health foods, yet it has quietly been part of healthy traditional diets around the world for generations. Green cabbage, red cabbage, Savoy cabbage, simple foods. One reason cabbage deserves attention is because it creates volume, and volume matters. Many adults trying to manage blood sugar spend too much time focusing on what they cannot eat, instead of asking, what can I add to make meals more satisfying? Cabbage helps answer that question. A bowl of cabbage soup, a cabbage slaw beside grilled chicken, cooked cabbage with garlic and olive oil. These meals often feel filling without relying heavily on ultra-processed ingredients. And perhaps more importantly, they are realistic. You don't need expensive ingredients. You don't need specialty stores. Just simple food. And speaking of simple foods, the next vegetable surprises many adults because it's often sitting right beside broccoli in the freezer aisle. Green beans don't receive much attention online. No one calls them a superfood. No one builds expensive diet programs around them. But that may be exactly why they're worth discussing. Green beans are familiar, affordable, easy to prepare. And for many adults, that's far more important than nutrition trends, because the best healthy food is often the one you will actually eat consistently. Steamed green beans, roasted green beans served beside fish, chicken, or eggs. Simple combinations. And simple combinations often create sustainable habits. Many adults become trapped in a cycle of constantly searching for the next miracle food. Meanwhile, the foods that quietly support healthier eating patterns are already sitting in their kitchens. And the next vegetable may be one of the most versatile foods on this entire list. Zucchini has become increasingly popular over the last decade. And unlike many food trends, this one actually makes sense. Zucchini adapts to almost anything: roasted, grilled, added to soups, mixed into egg dishes, served beside protein. And many adults find that meals built around simple vegetables and protein leave them feeling more stable throughout the day. Not because zucchini contains magic nutrients, but because it helps create a different kind of meal pattern, less processed, less rushed, less dependent on convenience foods. And often, that's where meaningful improvements begin, not with one ingredient, but with a completely different relationship with food. And now we've arrived at the final vegetable on today's list, the one that many adults tell us became a regular part of their weekly meals after they started paying closer attention to blood sugar. Monsin Fantistidium. If there is one vegetable that quietly earns a place on many blood sugar-friendly meal plans, it's asparagus. Simple, elegant, easy to prepare, and often paired naturally with protein-rich foods such as eggs, chicken, or fish. Many adults enjoy asparagus because it feels satisfying without feeling heavy, and that's something people often underestimate. Because blood sugar management isn't only about numbers, it's also about how you feel afterward. Do you feel energized, satisfied, comfortable, or exhausted and hungry again an hour later? Those questions matter. And foods that help create steadier meals often support more consistent habits over time. Which brings us to the most important lesson in today's video. Because the real goal is not finding one magical vegetable. The real goal is creating a pattern of meals built around simple whole foods, a pattern that feels sustainable, a pattern that reduces confusion, and a pattern that helps your body feel calmer and more stable over time. That's where real progress often begins. Many adults spend years searching for one magical food that will fix blood sugar. But real life usually works differently. The body responds to patterns, daily habits, meal combinations, sleep, stress, movement, consistency. And honestly, that may be one of the most encouraging truths about blood sugar after 60. You do not need perfect diets. You do not need to fear every carbohydrate. And you do not need expensive diabetic products filling your kitchen cabinets. What many adults truly need is clarity. To understand which foods digest rapidly, which foods create steadier energy, and which grocery products quietly pretend to be healthy. Because many vegetables can absolutely become part of a steadier lifestyle, not because they are miracle cures, but because simple whole foods often support the body far better than ultra-processed foods pretending to be healthy. And if you'd like more practical videos about blood sugar, hidden ingredients, grocery foods, and diabetes nutrition after 60, subscribe and join us in the next video. Because understanding food should feel empowering, not frightening.